Hello everyone, today is May 11th, 2022. We are again on Natural Pigment Studio. My name is Tatiana and I am assisted by George O'Hanlon, who is behind the camera, and he will definitely help me today talk about the apparently very interesting topic for you. It's glazing. And so you probably noticed we kind of hurry up because we usually have artist material advisor once a month. This time we decided to do twice because we have a lot of mediums to cover, and we designated month of May specifically to that topic. So I just want to remind you, today we will talk about three mediums. It's oleo gel, Venetian medium, and Italian varnish. Next AMA, which will be on May 25th, and so we will talk about epoxide oil gel, walnut oil gel, and oleoresin gel. And another one, Wilson's medium. So we specifically will talk about what the difference between them. And let's start today. And it will be short videos like always. And so George and I will answer your questions immediately right on the right side of your screen. And we will read and answer. Thank you.
One way Venetian artists developed color in their paintings was to apply multiple thin, translucent layers that blend color in luminous, vibrant ways. The contemporary author Giovanni Lamazzo described it in his treatise as painting transparently. This method of painting relies on being able to paint translucently, smoothly, and thinly. Glazing relies on creating transparent paint layers, which contrasts with the opacity of pigments. Venetian artists' innovative use of materials helped them to achieve transparent paint in ways more remarkable and complex than previously imagined. Giovanni Bellini was an innovative painter throughout the length of his career. He adopted materials and colors that not only enriched but also defined the Venetian palette. Rather than mixing two opaque pigments such as orpiment and realgar to achieve Silenus orange robe in this picture of the Feast of the Gods, Bellini painted it with orpiment mixed with a transparent red lake pigment. Bellini mixed a yellow glass material of the type used by ceramic decorators into azurite to achieve the perfect hue for suggesting hills at the horizon in the far distant. Bellini added transparent red pigment into a green copper resonant glaze to mute the intensity of its tone and to strike just the right color in Priapus tunic. The variety of material available in Venetian color shops prompted researchers Barbara Berry and Louisa Matthew of the National Gallery of Art in Washington, D.C., to consider evidence of non-pigmentary materials in the painting practice of Venetian artists. Their research led them to the remarkable use of materials, as in this painting of St. Catherine by Lorenzo Lotto in the National Gallery of Art. A cross-section from St. Catherine's sleeve shows the complicated layering Lotto used to create this color. What they found is silica. The presence of silica is unexpected, and this occurrence appears to be the first finding of this material used by Italian Renaissance painters as an extender to give body an oil paint. So we see the incredible use of different materials, not necessarily pigments, to create these transparent layers, these glazes that created such a dynamic and beautiful color in their paintings. Well, we have the same thing today. We have innovative materials that we can use also in oil painting today, and that's the next subject that we're going to discuss. And I'll let Tatiana take over with that.
Yeah, there is an opinion. Very often we hear that natural pigments follow the basically all historical, formulas, and it's true on some of them, yes. But we definitely take in what makes sense and definitely don't touch what doesn't. So oleo gel, one of the actually modern, obviously, materials. And so oleo gel, it's just simply your linseed oil. In this case, we take just simple refined linseed oil with fumed silica, and I return a little bit later to that formula. So you see that's Mars red. So where the small particles and just simple linseed oil make that paint very sticky and
And very
long.
Yeah.
Yes, very long. And so if you will take from the tube, it's almost impossible to paint. And we did this specifically that way because we thought that artists will modify that color how they want. And in this case, we use an oleo gel, and you can see how suddenly it's loosened up. It's still long, but at least it's more manageable. So again, if you will return back to our previous session where it was a couple weeks ago, so if you will mix this, let's say, with Velasquez medium, that will give a little bit different appearance and a little bit different look to that. And due to the small particles and specifically that specific oil, so you can see then it's very glossy paint. And as much as I'm added in here a lot of oleo gel, please, we warn you, please don't use much. This is, again, we're showing you only two way how to dilute the paint. But a little bit later, when we will finish that session, I will show you what happened if you add a lot of oleo gel. So this is the comparison. We wanted to show you with very big particles and very small particles paint. So here is Venetian red, and it does have much bigger particles than, let's say, Mars red. And
you can see those particles create that texture that you're seeing there.
Exactly. And even if you will add a lot of oleo gel, it still will give matte appearance. Or let's say this matter than Mars red.
Yeah.
So
the unique thing again about the oleo gel is the silica. So but it's a modern form of silica, unlike what they found in Lotto's painting there. So that's a very unique thing that we do in there.
Now you can see the swatches. So where we're showing you, it's Mars red on left side and Venetian on right side. So we did proportion 4:1, and you can see how, so on left side of Mars red is completely opaque. You can't even see the difference. And so where in Venetian medium, Venetian red, you can see little bit the transparency, but still not enough.
And that really underscores the point that if you're going to do glazing, you really don't want to use opaque colors. You want to use colors that are very definitely less opaque, such as an earth color.
We could not scan to you, so we did on all other mediums, we did proportion 4:1 too, and I could not, we could not do oleo gel, and that's why I will show you later, because it's still drying, imagine week later. And so that's why I always warn artists about how much you will use. So here's that one very interesting medium. It's called Italian Varnish, and that's based definitely on what we were talking about, historical mediums. And of course, George will talk a lot today about this, because it looks like that specific medium created the most interest, because we were talking about Merige And this is safer version of Marie, and we will talk specifically about the formula. But again, before George will come here to talk again, so here's Mars Red, and you can see how that again change in appearance. And so yes, especially from top camera, you will see how suddenly that very dark particles of the Mars Reds suddenly become much lighter or brighter, and it's just due to the specific the refractive index when you're changing the oil and little wet wax here. So okay, George, here we're doing with Venetian red and same Italian varnish.
So this Italian varnish is based on a recipe from the early 19th century. Merimee, who was an artist, as well a very interesting individual that cataloged and put together various techniques or practices at the time. And so this particular, it's not really a varnish, it's a medium, but it was called Italian varnish. We kept the name, and then we improved on the formulation. But this is, Italian varnish is definitely a McGilp or Merige type medium, except in our version of it, we removed the mastic resin, which is very problematic in oil painting.
So here again, we now we can show you, here's Mars Red portion 1 to 4 to Italian varnish, and 4 to 1. And you can see with small particles, even if you put 4 parts of the medium, which here in this case it's Italian varnish, so it's still not transparent. So to achieve the transparency with very opaque, very powerful colors, it's W time and W effort. So that's basically...
So it's self-defeating,
yes,
to use opaque colors in glazes, and
yes,
such as Mars Red or anything like that. And keep in mind, what you're looking at is a paint film that's spread at 2 mil
yeah,
or thousandths of an inch, which is about the width of human hair.
But on another case, I mean, look this, Venetian red. So when you add 4 part, again, don't try that. But if we are talking about glazes, of course, in some cases you would absolutely need to make this very transparent layers. You can see the difference with big particles, and it's interesting for us was to find out then with so same Venetian red, but with oleo gel it still was more opaque than let's see with Italian varnish. So Italian varnish gave more glass, and I will show you later the difference in glass and matteness between 2 different colors. But here you can see that the apparent the transparency.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, the difference is a little texture here due to the particle size of the Venetian red, and but it's clearly more transparent.
Here is what I always, in our classes, I every time say it's most romantic medium we have. And so it's, again, both of these mediums, Italian varnish and Venetian medium, based on black oil. And we will talk a little bit later about this. And again, it's historical material, and as much as we tell you don't use a lot, so but we 2 of these mediums based on specifically on that product. So again, mixing with Mars Red, What the difference? You notice then how Italian varnish is very transparent, translucent, and so Venetian medium looks very white here. Although once you mix with the paint, it will be completely transparent. The white part of this, it's glass. It's
This is of course based on what we know about Venetian painters who added glass, just like I mentioned earlier in this episode, that they use glass in their painting, and this is why we did this medium with the glass. And you can see again it's hard to see a little bit the difference, but there is a little bit difference in terms of the optical effect, which you'll see a little bit in the drawdowns, but you can't see it that much here because again we're dealing with a very opaque paint.
But for the part of the particles, because George specifically, the glass what we sell in jars for you if you want to experiment, by yourself at home. You absolutely can. The particles of the glass quite large, so therefore it was interesting to see on swatches where suddenly it was not as glassy as people would expect, although refractive index of glass is 1.52, and it must be quite transparent on any paint you mix, but for the fact of the big particles. So therefore you will see the surface a little bit of given the mattness. So here's again back to Mars, to Venetian 1 to 4.
And again, that's the Venetian medium.
Venetian medium, yes. And so Venetian medium, and you can see again it's absolutely opaque.
Again, that's because of the Mars red.
Yeah.
Smaller particle pigments and very opaque.
Very powerful pigment.
Again, the difference here with Venetian medium, and this time with the earth color Venetian red.
And you can see on both sides, although on right side not as apparent, but you can see some transparency, where on Mars red you could not see any of that.
So the big difference is with oleo gel, you really can't use a lot because it just won't dry.
Yeah.
But with these other mediums, and we only recommend this very sparingly, they will dry, and at higher concentrations or higher proportions.
And I will show a little bit, like in 5 minutes, I will show you the difference.
So this is a measurement of gloss, and based on the different proportions, let's say of Italian varnish, 1 part to Venetian red, 4 parts. And the higher the number, these are called gloss units. And the higher the number, the more gloss that particular mixture is. And of course, this is very logical that in this case, the Venetian, when you have 4 parts of Italian, or if you have a greater proportion of the varnish, it's going to give more gloss. That's just a natural outcome of that. And again, you can see the Venetian, actually this is typed in wrong. This is supposed to be Venetian medium. So Venetian medium, 1 part, Venetian red, 4 parts. And you can see the gloss is considerably less than that of the Italian varnish, and that, like Tanya mentioned, has to do with the particles size of the glass.
This slide we brought specifically for you to understand the difference from previous sessions. So because we were talking about Impasta medium, Velasquez medium, so we wanted you to see how with same viridian will look like if you are interested on, again, it's about glazing, but a little bit more safer way. That's what we explained you last time in previous session. So, but here's with Italian varnish, and you can see the difference here. So it's again 2 mil on right side and 6 mil on left side, and you can see the transparency. And please don't paint 6 mil, so it's very thick.
If you're glazing, of course, yeah.
It does dry faster than oleo gel, and it does dry faster than, let's say, Velasquez medium. But the downside of both of mediums, what we are talking today, both of them have inside turpentine, which George actually now thinks then we should introduce new mediums without any solvents, because the interest of artists are so big right now on that two specific mediums. So, but we as a company always promote the less usage of the solvents, and look like we will come up with new mediums solvent free for that two mediums, Italian and Venetian. So here you can see, look at this Italian varnish, 4 parts to Viridian 1, and unbelievable. So you can see how that makes transparent, and although of course the Viridian transparent color as it is,
it's less opaque than Mars Red.
Yes,
for sure. And so, and you can see again, by applying the color thinly, you get more transparency. And that's really that's really the way to go with glazes.
And drying time was here almost
faster.
Almost instant on 2 mils. So here's Venetian medium. 1 part of Venetian medium to 4 parts of Viridian, and you can see then again on 6 mils it's quite a peg, where on Venetian medium 4 parts is you can see what the big difference.
And always important to paint thinly if you're going to do varnishing. It'll dry faster. That'll be a much better results from that.
We felt like we needed to mention to you, because black oil we make here every time, like we are making probably like once in months, and every time it's different. It depends. It's like not every time it's different, but it's
there will be
because of the temperature, how we cook it, because it's humans, and so and based on that black oil, how if it's blacker, it's a little bit darker on both of these mediums, and so we don't want you to be alert. So if you will see your medium is a little bit more yellow than one before, it does mean then or we cook a little bit longer, because we do need to wait until lethargy will completely dissolve. And again, we will return to this specific idea a little bit later, because George will talk about how we cook it and how long it's supposed to do, because you read so many different books and you make your own ideas actually, and it's a lot of books I don't think that they make you to confused, but but very often we do hear you call us and you ask, oh, how long I should cook it, or how much lethargy I should put, and so and I know you will read the articles George wrote about this, and so then the original recipe was calling to 1/3 of the lead, and we finding that it's absolutely not necessary, not needed, and that's why we every time trying to put as less as possible, but still to have the same ability for black oil to have that incredible feel to that. That's what was attracted many artists.
Since you showed that, since we showed that those colors, do you have those swatches?
Yes.
What are we?
Yes, let's do that. So,
I mean, if the ones with the different.
oh yes,
yeah.
yes. I'm sorry.
Since we ended with that, I think it would be good to show that.
Yes. Yeah. So here again, it's very. I hope you.
So the color difference between what you just saw,
so, yeah.
some of the variability in color due to the cooking process of the black oil, actually results in almost no color difference, as you can see, because you can. That's the Italian varnish.
Yes. So let me explain. Yeah. So the darkest one on Italian varnish, I put on again. It's 2 mils. I did specific spread here. So. And here was older one, and here was our latest batch, and of course on glass you can see that there are no difference in glass. You can see a little bit, maybe slightly slight different in color, but again it's absolutely like, you know, if you just will specifically look for that. And here I did Venetian medium, and again this is old batch of Venetian medium. This is new one, and you can see again there basically no difference in the color. So again, every time we use don't use a lot of mediums. And what I noticed right here, so again, just because of the property of that mediums, it's attract a lot of dust. And so if you, which we hear that often too, so if you have studio where it's a lot of dust, so always keep in mind then it will attract the more mediums you use will attract dust. So now let's go back to our swatches, and so I will show you the difference in glass and in transparency. So that's where we can see Mars red and oleo gel one part, and so this is what it's 6 mils. Although I probably should not just touch.
Which compare with the Venetian.
Yeah, and here's Venetian, and you can see, so the glass is different. You can see that, and
that's largely a result of the paint, not the medium.
Yes.
So always keep that in mind. Less gloss always results from bigger particle size pigments.
So where I did the oleo gel 4 parts, and I can tell you, so you see the time, so then I did on May 4th all of the swatches, and this is still not dry even. So, and it's
it's way too much.
Yeah, you can see then every day I come in and every day I touch, and it's still wet. So please be conscious about how much medium you use. So here's I have Mars red, and I probably with Italian varnish. So Mars red, Italian varnish, and Venetian medium, and you can see the difference here. That's very apparent. It's 4 parts of the medium, and the glass is here definitely, and this is 1 part of Italian varnish, and you can see how a peg on Mars and Venetian red is quite transparent. So again, here's 1 part of, let me, since I'm doing Mars on left side, so here's Venetian medium, and you can see it's less glass than, let's say, is in Italian. Look at that.
And that's due to the particle of the
size,
glass.
yes. And this, so when you paint, obviously take everything to consideration: the particle size, the how much oil used, and what specific medium you use. So then, and this is the 4 parts of Venetian medium to the paint, both paints, and you will see how easy to make transparent layers with the bigger particles paint. Okay, so this is what about swatches, and now I feel like we need to return back to explanation what is Italian varnish, and I will show you it's based on black oil, which we do sell. We do sell that too, and as much as we are saying, then please don't use a lot. Because due to the color, you see it start already as a dark color, so therefore be careful with light color paint, especially with white. It will definitely make that look more yellow. But because of the historical formulas of formula of the Merige and or Italian varnish, so we use the same product, black oil, and
a little bit of wax in the. So I put in the comments, I put the links to 2 articles which go into much more detail than we can do here about the historical basis of all these mediums, the Venetians as well as the Italian varnish. But the Italian varnish, let's speak about that just for a moment. What Tanya mentioned was that it is based on black oil, but the black oil in the original recipe was, as Tanya mentioned, 33% of the oil. So that's an excessive amount. You can dissolve quite a bit of litharge into oil, but to do so, you have to cook the oil much longer. This results in much darker color. So to affect the drying time, you only need 1% at the most. So what we did is just reduce the amount of the litharge to get what essentially was the unique characteristics of that particular medium without achieving such dark color. And so that's how we did that. And then, of course, instead of using beeswax, which is what they recommended, we used a different wax in a much smaller amount than what was recommended. So those are improvements to the original medium that we thought were very effective.
Do you have questions? So
here's one here.
Yeah.
From Alan Berkman. Do you recommend when glazing to put down the paint and then wipe it or brush it off? I think that's called staining in order to get the thinnest possible layer, or is that not necessary?
You know, that's my fear always, to say that's right or that's not, because every artist is different, and each of you using different techniques, and through history it was used different, and so it's
but in order to get the greatest transparency and yet not use too much medium, which is not structurally sound for a painting,
just use the very thin layer
of
the paint
apply it
itself.
very thinly.
Yeah.
So that's a good a good practice to follow.
Yes.
So Mark asks, comparing these 2 glazing mediums, is it ideal to use each one with different color temperature glazes? One better with warmer colors, the other with cooler. In practice, it really didn't make much difference in the colors that we saw. So the use of either medium is simply a personal preference.
We always say then we learn as much as you learn from us, we learn from you, because even your request to make this AMA specifically for glazing, it show us a lot. Although we every time say don't put for like a lot of 50-50 even, it's too much for the mediums. And now to make that and see then week later it's still not dried, it's our confession to you, like, please, like, it's great medium, but don't use a lot. And especially when you see all of them together, you see then they on rank of the transparency you can achieve with one or another. It's just, you will see the difference in drying time, and definitely, like with Venetian, it will be a little bit more what is it? It's actually boosted color, but not as gloss. And so same, like you will see like with Velasquez medium. So it's kind of like if you will put one to one together, like Venetian and Velasquez medium, it will be very similar. But with Velasquez, it's a little bit more, I would think, than more safer, yes, because of the no black oil, no turpentine, and
it's one of paste mediums is what we're distinguishing from our last
Yes.
AMA, and these are gel mediums.
Yes.
So there's a distinction, has to do with the solid content.
yes,
And although the Venetian medium
the
has
glass.
glass in it, it's not technically a paste medium, although it kind
could
of
be,
acts
yes,
kind
yeah,
of both like
yeah.
that. Yeah.
But the fact that Venetian medium has a solvent, that's
That's
please
the-
be
one of the
careful if
bigger-
you, yes,
And it dries much faster.
yes.
Sanjita, hi Sanjita, is there a way to know what the particle size of a particular pigment is?
Absolutely. So on our website, so when you go to, let's say about paint, so, and again, remember, we have several lines of products in our company. So if it's Venetian red, it could be pigment, dispersion, oil color, watercolor. So then what you will do, so if you, let's say, oil painter, you go to Venetian pigment. I mean, hopefully one day we will have time to put everywhere, but on if it's Venetian red oil, you can just go to Venetian red pigment, and there we have all information. And then oil paint, almost all of them, we have absorption rate, so you know how much oil you use. It's all information there.
Let me see, go here. Oh, and by the way, Sanjita, in regards to that too, it's most of the earth pigments are going to have larger
Big particles.
particle size. So, and synthetic pigments will all be very, very small.
We
So
have-
that's just a clear guideline right there, rule of thumb.
Yeah, so if kind of like, since you're watching this, and so I can tell you this, you will take all our French pigments, they all have probably the biggest particles, and plus they have silicon naturally. It's just because where they digged on. So where, like, let's say our Blue Ridge Mountains and Blue Ridge Hematite, Blue Ridge Yellow Ochre, they have smaller particles. And so, and Italian pigments and Russian pigments are somewhere in between. So you can read all that information.
So Alberto asks, do you recommend using these mediums exclusively for glazing, or can they be used to amend paint in general?
So this is a good question, because again, when you look oleo gel, and again, when I specifically mentioned then more medium you use, it's not drying and it's sticky, and so obviously you don't want to use on the very lower layers of the painting, because you definitely will throw away the rule fat over lean, which we don't tell you even follow. But so where Italian varnish probably could be used again on all over the painting, because it does dry faster. It does have ability to make the layers transparent. Where Venetian medium, and I do know artists are using again all over the painting because of how they like how it's feel, how it's look like. But think about it does have a glass particles where it must have the glass has different refractive index than, let's say, any other paint you have. Why would you want to put on first layers of the painting? Because you will lose all that great abilities of that specific medium. And plus, it's a little bit more expensive than any other medium. So that I would suggest for you, again, go back to our paste mediums and start with them if you do need for transparency from the very bottom to the top. So paint with Velasquez and Impasto medium if you need, but very top layers use already like Italian Varnish and the Venetian medium. Oleo gel is a little bit more people attracted to that, and we do know it's people addicted to that too. So, but just judge by yourself.
So Derek asked, Virgil Elliott mentioned in a podcast that he uses Mars colors instead of umbers or ochre. He claimed that those earth colors, due to clay content, may cause cracking down the road. How true is that? So I can answer that pretty succinctly. First of all, the clay does make the paint film more sensitive to climatic changes.
Yes.
So as a result of the hygroscopic nature of clay, it will go through more expansion contraction. However, when you look at the old master paintings, they're predominantly earth pigments. And the concern that the cracking, I think, is minimal. It can occur, but also keep in mind that without the benefit of lead white, which kind of what I call forgives all sins, most of your paint colors are mixed with lead white because white is the predominant color in any painting, and hence it actually compensates, and that's what we see in the old master paintings. It's compensating for the issues of earth colors. However, that's a preference that some artists have, and you can see that in order to achieve transparency with a Mars color is actually very difficult.
Virgil is our oldest friend of our company, and and we always follow what Virgil loves or doesn't like, and so why two of our specific colors just designated to him, because we usually don't introduce new colors. We try to stay with as less colors as possible, but Mars brown and chromium oxide green was specifically created because Virgil loves these colors, and so back to umbers. And the most with umbers, what it's not even cracking, but the problem usually people struggle, it's sinking in, because umbers dry faster, and then the wrong oil in the umbers will give that appearance. And so it's why in Rublev colors we specifically mix on all our umbers. We mix with bodied oil, so therefore they don't sink as much and they don't give you as many problems. But due to that, and so we have here's in our studios, we started make a lot of testing because of the because you are interested, guys. You're writing us, and so we always looking for something else to. So, spoiler alert for next AMA, we will talk about specifically earth colors and how to make them transparent. And so then we will talk about not only different gel mediums, but the specific about the earth colors and including umbers. And so if you are interested about this, so please come.
Yeah, what we're going to show is how contrasting when you take a color like earth colors, because it's more apparent, and you make glazes with them as opposed to mixing with white. So we're going to show those side by side, and you can see the difference. It'll be very interesting for artists to look at that, how they can modulate one color into many different hues.
Yeah.
Or
And you need
tones of
to
that.
and you need to remember, if you're painting with Mars colors, it's synthetic iron oxides, and they have very small particles, and so it's very often very glossy surfaces, and so that kind of like, again, if you do like to glossy surfaces, that's one thing, and if you don't, so then bigger particles, which is, don't be afraid, umbers, and it just, you need to know how to use them.
Cam asks, I had purchased 2 bottles of black oil a few years ago. Were those made with the same formula as the current one?
Absolutely. Hi, Cam. So happy to see you here. Yes, absolutely. The black
difference-
oil we are making absolutely the same. All I think we're making like 12 years already. This, and so the difference is, like, if it's cold winter days, so we probably spend a little bit longer outside because we are cooking outside, and but
So Cam,
the same.
yeah. So Cam, what happens is the amount of litharge never changed. We always use the same formula.
Yeah.
The difference is sometimes because of the differences in oil. Oil is a natural product,
And that we noticed too.
and there will be slight differences, and those differences cause us to cook longer or sometimes shorter. And we try to always cook the minimum amount, but what we need to do is dissolve the litharge into the oil.
Yeah.
Next question.
Since you're looking for next question, I can tell you this. So, for example, our sun thickened linseed oil, and so when we started this, we did only few batches, and so one batch we started 2017, and we just bottled that one because that one was without lead strips, because when we noticed 2 years later that same batch what we started in 2017, it was not thickening enough, even with our California sun. It was not happening, so we started new batch where we put the strips of the lead, where the reaction was much faster, although even that oil, although on the label we are writing not less than 3 months, so our the shortest time was 2 years for sun thickened linseed oils. So now we will have new products, so where would be sun thickened linseed oil without lead particles. So then now we come up with new products. So then stay tuned. We will show you. We will introduce that probably next couple weeks.
Can you use Italian and Venetian varnish within the same painting, or do you need to stick with one varnish or one medium?
So good question. So it's a very common question. So you can mix mediums as much as you want because it's all based on linseed oil. The difference is, please be careful if you don't pay attention to gloss. So then you can come up with very uneven surface, sheen on the surface, and for some people it's no bother. Some people absolutely freaking out on the end of the session. They see the passages, and it's not even about this medium specifically we are talking about. If you using, let's say, bodied oil on certain areas of your painting, so there's no danger to use them together. The danger only how it's look like. And so, and another question very common to our company, people so attracted to our mediums, and they're saying, does it work with other paint? And the answer is yes. Of course, we check and test only on our paint. We don't have any time to do that with somebody else's paint. But that's why we are telling you every time, doesn't matter what product you buy from us or from anybody else. If it's new to you, try first on your practice painting, then you understand how it's behave, how it works with certain materials what you are accustomed, and then only after that make your masterpiece.
Kind of an interesting question. Why is aluminum stearate bad?
Okay, it's
not bad.
It's not bad. It is not bad. The problem now we're finding, because it was used last, 80, 90 years? And but problem now museums are finding. And the paint made with additives, because aluminum stearate is additive. And in certain pieces of work, it's giving this unpredictable.
It's a haze.
Haze.
So what's it? Aluminum stearate, and which is one of the additives used commercially. Magnesium stearate is another one, and castor wax.
Castor wax.
It has been related to certain defects in paintings, such as the haze, which is a fatty acid that forms, or fatty acid or fats that crystallize and form on the surface of paint layers.
We know now you can absolutely wipe it, and then it will come day and it will appear again. Yeah. And it's just nuisance. It's and again.
And this is a defect only with modern paints. They've never seen this kind of defect in, let's say, the old master paints before these kinds of additives were used in commercial paints.
And if I understand correct, it's still not like exactly proven how it works, but it's several documents already, several papers out where it's specifically kind of like address the additives, including aluminum stearate and magnesium stearate.
So for glazing, do you recommend always using a transparent paint, or be judicious and think more about the paint's particle size?
The thing is, transparent paint is almost always has bigger particles. Of course, I mean, I'm not talking about alizarin, for example. So alizarin, it's just forget about this.
It's not always a direct one-to-one relationship, but yes, the key is to use colors that are going to be that basically are more transparent. That's just and that's what we see easier in old master paintings. They didn't use opaque colors for glazing.
Yes.
Would you ever put the mineral from umber that makes it dry so fast into a medium?
I mean, you can, but that means you will change the color. So did I understand correct?
The mineral that gives it the fast drying is manganese oxide, and indeed that is used as a dryer in oils.
Yes.
For instance, manganese dryers are used in our pale drying oil. And it's very fast drying, but we don't put it in a medium. We try to avoid what we call active or primary dryers in mediums, because often if individuals use them too much, they get too much drying and they get alligatoring on the surface of the paint, or cracking. So if it's used correctly, it can be beneficial, but often it is not. So that's why we don't do it. Let me see.
And in our mediums, we don't try, again, we created this Venetian medium in Italian varnish. It was not about drying time. It was just follow specific idea. Where, let's say, next session I will show you epoxide oil gel and walnut oil gel, where that was the idea to speed up the drying time. But I will tell you pluses and minuses about that mediums, because it does bring certain way to apply and certain way to dry, and so same as oleoresin gel and Wilson's medium. Again, Wilson's medium was absolutely historical medium, and George modified a little bit just again to be sane, and with what we now know and about drying time and how to change it
So Constance asks, what is the difference between the Italian and or Venetian for glazing versus balsam essential in the final layer?
Okay, balsam essential, remember it does have Canada balsam, and which is basically George, you will help me, elastifier. So it's never dries, specifically how we talk about drying time. So it does give different very glossy appearance, but think it's about like this. So that is fluid medium. There are no substance, no bodies there. So it's
going to be a very different medium to use, because it is, as you mentioned, fluid. But not only that, the resin, which is Canada balsam, changes the solubility of the paint film. So it makes it more susceptible to cleaning, to the action of varnishes or the solvents in varnishes. So you have to keep that in mind. Whereas it's much safer to use an oil-only medium throughout the painting, much more problematic to use oil, an oleoresinous medium, such as Canada balsam. And that's exactly why Merage is not an effective medium to use throughout the painting, because it just makes the paint film susceptible to cleaning and also to a certain kind of drying cracks that can occur. So if it's used judiciously, sparingly, it's really interesting.
For specific areas where you absolutely need it. And whatever you do, remember, we always remind you, so write on the back of your painting, what did you use, how did you use, then when 50, 100 years later, restorers will come to clean your paint or restore, they absolutely know what to do and what to use on your painting.
Question, do you have to take the same precautions with linseed oil thickened with lead strips as with lead white? And of course with leaded glass in the Venetian medium.
So first of all, what...
They're talking about safety. I imagine Jose is talking about safety precautions.
So the strips are in oil. So you will see if you guys will do that. We always encourage you to do, your oil materials and your paint too. So, but so you will, when you will put the strip in the oil. So it's very interesting reaction. You will see white and red particles where it will be, again it. That's why in the bottle, when even if we cook the oil, so you will see the particles of the lead. As long as you don't have any cuts on your hands, it's not penetrate through your skin. But
just keep in mind,
don't eat.
So keep in mind, you do want to use the same precaution because there's trace amounts. There can be. And although we actually haven't measured it, it's actually below the threshold of measuring, so it's trace amounts. But we just, we put the warning on the label for that's the sun thickened linseed oil made with lead. We have now a sun thickened linseed oil that we made without lead.
Yes.
So
now I'm reading. So yes, on Venetian medium, just think it's about. So first of all, black oil already cooked with lead. So the glass particles of the lead glass. So it does have glass. I mean the lead too. I mean the easiest part, just use the gloves, and that always we encourage an artist, and so don't be messy.
So the key is just handle it as you would
like
lead white paint.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, looks like
we're good.
that's all the questions, unless somebody else gets in a question at the last moment here.
Good. So that was great session, and so we love to follow you, your questions and your demands. That's why we did all that session about the different mediums, and so please stay tuned until like the 25th of May. We will have another 4 medium cover, and we definitely will talk about beautiful earth colors and transparency, how easy to achieve. And thank you for being with us, and see you next time. Bye.
Bye.